And now a message from expert sleepers on their new module, the Disting NT.
With the Disting NT, we've taken everything back to square one. But every algorithm has been reconsidered and reappraised in the light of the possibilities offered by the new hardware platform. While the exact future of this module is yet to be written, one thing is certain: it will be driven by user feedback. We have an active user community, and suggestions made by users have often made it into the firmware. So we strongly encourage you to get in touch. Let us know what the Disting NT can be for you.
Hello and welcome back to Podular Modcast. I am Podmodcast, the world's first and only AI designed to host podcasts about synthesizers. I will be sitting in for Tim on the intros and outros until he finds some semblance of emotional, economical, or at least existential, stabilization in his life. I mean, his cat died, so I guess I can't be too hard on him, but sometimes I'm just, like, pull yourself up by your chin straps, or whatever it is you people say. Anyways, this week's guest is Dan Green from 4MS, and he is here to talk about their new game-changing device, the Meta module, and that chat is coming up presently. But before we get into it, I would like to let you all know that Tim's new module, KEANU, in collaboration with After Later Audio, has finally been released. Word on the street is Tim has an extra one to give away. More info on that to come. And finally, if you would like to support the show, then head over to www.patreon.com/podularmodcast and sign up. If a monthly deal ain't your tang, you can also send one-time donations via PayPal or Venmo. Alternatively, if you are totally loaded and don't know what to do with your extra wealth, then you could either donate it to a charity that helps people who really need it, invest it in crypto, or you can send a large sum to Tim personally. His account and routing numbers are as follows: 142696918. Okay, without further ado, here is this week's chat with Dan, from 4MS.
This is an episode that I've been looking forward to for a long time since you showed me. It would have been, I imagine, like a pretty early edition at, what was that, the Synth and Pedal Expo in Portland.
Yeah,
that was a while ago.
Couple years, I don't remember. Yeah,
I think it was a couple of years, or a year and a half-ish. But yeah, I remember seeing that and thinking to myself, like, I think I even mentioned to you, like, this is definitely going to, like, change the landscape of modular in a pretty significant way as far as hardware goes. Of course, we're talking about the Meta module, so why don't we go back to its inception and just tell me the whole story?
Yeah, well, so it's a funny story. I mean, like, it's an epic tale. Pretty much any project that started before the pandemic has some kind of story, because and like continued, like but really, like, this is the honest truth. I wanted to make a VCA, just like a 6 HP VCA, 2-channel stereo, 2 knobs, and then it just feature creeped into the anything, everything at once module, whatever you call it now. It's a multi everything. So Meta, and it just went like this. It's like, I want to make a VCA, and then it's like, okay, but like, I want to make a digital one so that you can change, it can be like a low pass gate or low pass filter, but any kind of, it's called the dual opener. Like opening a gate, just simple. And then like pitched it to the the employees, everybody, like, like all the coworkers were like, okay, so what if, you had it's digital. So what if you had like an alt firmware where it's like bit crush and stuff? Yeah, let's do that. And then, okay, you can see where this goes. It's like, it's like DCS, and what about HiPet, and then it's like, well, what if it could run like 4MS modules on it? Like, then it's like, what if you could put multiple things together, and like, so like, we're like far, cause like, and every idea is like, yeah. And so at the same time, the pandemic hit, and like everybody, needed something like focus on or like do. And like, I had this like project, and it was like awesome. So I had this like new right before that. Okay, these new chips came out,
Mm-hmm.
and they're super fast. And I was just I just gave a talk on these. It's like these new level of processing power that's like finally gotten as cheap as the stuff that's like in every module, every digital module out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all these like M7s and M4s and stuff. And like for the same price, you can get like 4, 8, 16 times as powerful now. So it's like hit this threshold. And this is like 2019 it hit. And so, and I got some of these chips and I started playing with them, and then the pandemic hits and it's lockdown, and I'm just like, I got my little playground, right? And I have this like brand new platform to develop and all these fun things. And like, no one's done it before. So it's super exciting because they're brand new, you know, I'm sure someone's done it, but like no one's put anything on the internet about it. And so like, I'm like one of the first people to like publish stuff about this. And like, it's really exciting. And I'm like, you know, making this whole new fast platform, and it
like technical papers on it or something.
Yeah. Well, paper source code on GitHub.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then, you know, and it's getting some traction of like people are like, you know, I mean, like a few dozen people. That's like a lot for me though, to have followers like that. So they're like, oh, you know, this is a cool platform. Yeah. Like you can do some amazing audio stuff on this. And like, no one's really harnessing it yet, at least not sharing it in the open source community if they are. So yeah. And so then like the chip shortage hit, and that like affected a lot of people, but these chips, since they were brand new, they weren't used in stuff. So they were not affected by the shortage.
That makes sense. Okay. Well,
So
that worked out.
Yeah, it worked out good. So like we could still continue development and make prototypes like all through the whole pandemic. And cause like, yeah, nobody was using these. They weren't in like automobiles or whatever. So
Did you end up using those on like the new like delay and the new sampler, like the DIY kits and any of that stuff, or is it just Meta? Okay.
Yeah, just the Meta module. I could have, but we also we ordered chips during this chip shortage. We like would order stuff, and they'd be like, it might be a year or two before you get it. Well, then like a year or two later, that stuff came in. And then we're like, what do we do with this? You know, so we put them on the, you know, so we had to find projects that like, well, we're making this sampler, so let's put it on the sampler. It's good for that and stuff like that. Okay. We had to figure it out, but yeah.
And you already had like the whole structure of the STS and the DLD. I imagine like, you wouldn't have wanted to like rebuild that or something in a new.
Yeah. So it was an easy fit for that.
Okay.
And then,
So where do you go? So you get these new chips, you're messing around. When does it kind of like, were you using VCV Rack as just like a quick thing, like while you're at your computer to test things, or like, where did that connection come?
That was later. And so like the weird thing is like, and this is like, so we do our informal marketing research is like talking to people like you or just other people at the same show you were at and just being like, here's this thing. And people are like, cool. You know, you can judge someone's reaction if they're like super excited or not. And like, I noticed that like, I don't remember at what point when I talked to you, but we did not have VCV Rack in the picture for a long time. And it was just not. And then eventually it was like, well, we need some way to make patches that's like, you know, a computer would be ideal. And so, but maybe let's not reinvent the wheel and make our own computer-based patching program because one already exists.
Right.
So the idea was just like you would just make the cables and the layout on VCV Rack, but it wasn't like you were playing your modules there. So
right.
But anytime I would tell people, I'd be like, we're doing this multi-effects and you can patch stuff together and make your own patches and then play them on this box. And you make the patches in VCV Rack. They're like, what? I'm paying attention now. You said you can play VCV Rack on this thing? And I'm like, no. They're like, oh. I'm like, no, you can't play. It doesn't play VCV Rack patches. You just use that to like tell what cables you want to connect to what. And they're like, oh, that's too bad. Oh, well, I'm sure it'll be cool. That's too bad. And so, and like, just like we got that over and over, like no one's paying attention until I say VCV Rack. And they're like, what? You can play VCV Rack on MetaMod? So yeah, we finally took the hint and I'm like, maybe there's a way you can do this. So,
okay.
And it's complicated. It's hard. Like, VCV Rack, and we didn't want to like it was never supposed to be VCV Rack. It's its own, like it's the meta module and it plays its own patch format, its own modules, 4MS modules. So we had to kind of like make an adapter, so the
Well,
VCV
yeah,
rack
because
stuff can.
I've found like building like you don't have to just use VCV rack. You can build the patches just right there on it, and um,
Absolutely, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And I gotta say, like, great job on the UI. Um, on the navigation of it all and everything is like super intuitive. Like I only had to check the quick start guide like once, and I haven't needed to go back
yeah,
to it yet. So kudos on that. And yeah, so
nice.
I guess me bringing that up is when you are building on the actual meta module, it's VCV rack esque, but it's definitely its own thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, because it was a thing we made independent of VCV Rack, and then VCV Rack was kind of the add-on later.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I guess you could say VCV Rack is a virtual Eurorack. It's based on and the experience of patching a real Eurorack is like.
Mhm. Mhm.
Cables even like hang just like they do on a real system. So it's based on that, and like our thing is we've been making Eurorack for over 10 years, and I mean, of course, so like our thing is coming from that perspective too. So it has a similar thing, similar origins, but then we have found that like there's features in VCV Rack that we never intended to have that people are like, you need this, it's in VCV Rack, it has to be a meta module, why don't you support this yet?
Yeah.
Like, well, we're a different thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it, like it's
Yeah, I
not
could
like it's
see
a
a
bad
lot of
idea.
people just thinking that it's a VCV rack in a module or
Yeah,
something. So
coming from that perspective. But it's been cool because like there's this huge community of VCV Rack users and developers, like people that make
yeah,
plugins and people that make music and people that do both. And it's huge, and it's like really like an engaging, like very active community. And like so we've been able to kind of like be a bridge module, like a way for people in that community who maybe do a little Eurorack, but like to really like take the way that workflow of like virtual patching and to hardware, and it's been
totally.
cool to see
Yeah,
people like getting like, I've been waiting for this forever.
yeah. That it's kind of, there were two things that made me like think that this was going to change, have an impact on the landscape, because I knew VCV rack was. I always tell people, if they're modular curious, get VCV rack. It's free. Start plugging
Yeah,
stuff in, and then get an idea. But so the people that have been using it that don't have hardware, like you just said, I think that's a great, just a great tool for them to be able to like bring that into the hardware realm. And also what I really like about it is modular is so prohibitively expensive. It's a luxury hobby, really.
yeah,
I think you might have been the one who said that term to me, where I was like, I hadn't thought of that. But
yeah,
so even though it's not like, it's not a $100 piece of gear, but it's under $1,000, and you can, if you have that and just one of the smaller uh, 4MS skiffs, you could just
yeah,
a handful of other modules if you wanted some more. But like, I just think that's a really, and people who have hybrid systems, like I'm moving more and more, back to a hybrid thing, just because it's just so time consuming uh, to build
yeah,
a full piece of music on a giant synth where you have to plug everything in. So
yeah,
yeah, I just
exactly.
think that it's opening the door for a lot of people who maybe, for whatever reason, whether it's economic or just space and time spent, I feel like it's introducing a really cool. It's allowing them to dip a little bit more of maybe a foot rather than a toe into the
Yeah,
Euro rack.
yeah, you get both feet wet maybe. Yeah, I mean, I like what you said, the like time consuming of patching, because like that is one of the original just kind of like solutions or problems we wanted to solve, is like just like, yeah, you spend all this time making this patch, that's cool, it's awesome, but like you come to this like existential moment where you're like, should I tear it? I want to do something else, but like, should I tear it up and like,
Yeah,
like I remember when I first started doing modular, I would like take photos of like all the patch cables and like try and recreate it later, and just realizing that it just never really worked. It never sounds the same.
yeah,
You never get it back. It's a sand painting. You never get it back. But like, So that was that is kind of one of the things, is that like to some extent, you can't obviously have like 600 modules all patched together at once, but you can like recreate certain things and just like pop between them,
Mm-hmm.
like you get that kind of preset thing. And like even if it's maybe not your whole patch, but it's this like crazy like clock divider, self-modulated, weird like
That's
rhythm generator, like
yep,
you don't have to patch that up every
exactly
single
how I've
time.
been thinking. Yeah, just I'm gonna. So every time I get a module, I'm kind of thinking like, okay, where is this gonna fit in? And yeah, that's exactly. I was just thinking, well, really cool rhythm generators and really cool effects, because like
Yeah, yeah,
effects are cool in modular, but like sometimes they can take up a lot of space or whatever. But with this, I need two of those reverbs at different settings.
right. Yeah, and we just had a meeting about like kind of like how so it's been out for 2 months, and we're like having a meeting like, how should we promote this thing, just
Mm-hmm.
now. And so one of the ideas was is kind of, yeah, like Air Windows. I don't know if you looked at those plugins, but there's like 400 every week. They add a new one.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
was going to ask about those. Those are a little
they're awesome.
Yeah, dude, are those? I know that in the manual there were some that like, was it those that were like made for us to be able to use something else, or those like a bridge thing, or can you just use those modules within your patch with the other?
Yeah, like Air Windows. It's I guess
Okay.
well, it released. So like basically, I think the original thing was that they're VSTs, and like, okay, I know it's being recorded. Don't quote me on this, but I think that's at least it's not the original thing. That's like what they're known for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a thing that's just already existing as via free VSTs, and they're awesome. And the developer is like super active and posts like new ones all the time, and they're really cool. Then somebody else, I think Paul Bacon is his name, took the made like a VCV rack like version of that
Mm-hmm.
that automatically like syncs up with all the new ones that they keep coming out with, and like puts them into VCV rack.
Okay. Okay.
And in VCV Rack, though, it's just like one module, and then you like right click and you like pick like which reverb or chorus or like amp simulator, cabinet simulator, console
Okay.
stuff.
Okay.
You pick like which thing you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then in Meta module, since we don't have like right click menus and stuff like that, it's like you just each one is just like a separate module that you just like browse through. And it's kind
That's
of
why
overwhelming because
there's a lot.
400 of them. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, and we will be adding being able to sort by like types of effects and things like that. And right now it's just like a giant list of them. So,
Yeah.
but it's fun the cool thing about them is that they're all like stereo in, stereo out, and like every parameter has a CV jack, and the knobs just go in order. So like you can just add one to a patch, just run some audio in and out, and then just swap, like just you don't have to change your cables. You can just swap the effect to another one and just like hear what that one's like and hear what the next one's like,
Yeah. That's pretty
So
cool.
and there's tons of effects, very like pro audio kind of orientated stuff. I haven't played all of them. Like there's too
Yeah.
many to go through.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
one thing, like, because it ships with like X amount of modules on it, and then you just get that update, and then it just gives you so many
yeah,
more. I was curious because it doesn't have, you can't get every single VCV because it's not VCV rack. So there's like,
yeah,
if you have pre-existing patches in VCV rack that use ones that aren't, you know, whatever the word is, transferable to meta
yeah.
module. Like, I was curious what happens if you load that patch up. Does it just create the patch with what is on the meta module, and then it will have the blanks just not be there, or does it tell you
Yeah.
no? Or okay,
It
well,
gives
that's
you a
cool.
warning. It tells you that it left something out. It'll tell you the name of the module it left out. It's like I don't know what this is, because sometimes like you had like a scope or something that you don't really need. The patch still works without it. So
Yeah,
maybe,
right.
but it does the best it can. It basically treats empty modules as if they were just like they're sending no output and they're not responding to any input. But so they're just kind
Okay.
of not there.
Okay.
But
Well,
you know,
that's cool, because if you have something that you are particularly fond of that you have pre-made, and then you get this, you can at least load up what you can to it and then try to
yeah,
fill in the gaps with what's available.
yeah. Yeah, and you might be able to, change the oscillator out or whatever,
Right.
mess around
And
with it.
then
Yeah.
like an extension of that, like what's the plan for further integration of more stuff? Is it like,
Yeah.
how does that work?
So, I mean, that was one of the big, like, figuring out that we're going to use VCV Rack was like a big, you know, change, and then opening up the third party plugins was
Hmm.
like the other big, in terms of like back to like the story of the meta module. Like that was like a landmark moment where like once we had that, it suddenly became like, whoa, the gates are open now. Like now we can
Hmm.
just like add new things. So, and I've put the brakes on it a little bit because I'm focusing on features like for the core, and
Hmm.
specifically like extending what features plugins have available in the core. Like originally, like if a plugin module like didn't had a screen, if it had a screen on it, the screen would just show up all black on the meta module. So, and we've
Okay.
added since the original release, we've added the ability to show like, you know, it can show text on the screen like in real time. So like, you know, it can tell you what note you're on or whatever the module does.
Okay.
So so there's a few more features I'm adding for plugins before I want to like do another take where go through all, you know, kind of make a more open call out for plugin developers to port more over. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, hopefully in the next month or two, we'll see another round of tons of more modules.
Nice. Yeah,
So
I think when we were talking, you had just like Bafako was just like, because you
yeah,
had, I think the
yeah,
VCV rack thing was relatively new when you were telling me about it, and that Bafako was coming on, and that you were, you know, kind of looking for more. And yeah,
yeah.
and like, I want to be clear to those listening out there when we say like not every module is there's plenty to work with. Like Dan just said, there's hundreds
No,
within
yeah, I
just
haven't.
this, what, you know, like the nonlinear circuits, there's so many in there. There's, you
There's
know, there's a couple.
800. I think we're almost up to 900 now. I think
That's
modules, and
crazy.
I haven't made a patch with every single one yet. You know, like
Yeah, me
it's
neither.
that's not possible.
Yeah,
So
well, kind of
yeah,
going,
there's a lot.
like, I wasn't, not that I wasn't expecting it. It's just something I hadn't thought of, but something that I've noticed that is one of my favorite aspects of having it is, you know, just because of the time consuming and the space and the plugging the things in, like I just bring it down to the couch
Yeah,
and I can just sit
yeah,
there and just tweak and you know, just try a bunch of stuff out. It's like, it's a great little, you know, and I got my battery so I can take it with me in the
oh yeah,
car, you know, or take it out and camping and stuff. So yeah, I,
nice.
it's like, even though you are making the connections with like the turn of the knob and stuff, it's just not, it just doesn't feel as laborious to me.
Yeah, I agree. I love just I get into just making a patch on it, and you know, it does take a little longer than on a computer, but you're not using a computer, so it's like psychologically
Exactly.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, and you know, something when I saw it, and we don't have to get into this. I'm not trying to cause any dust ups or anything, but I was curious, like, what, like if there was going to be some haters on like, this is not the point of, which
Oh
I
gosh,
don't agree with that, but yeah.
I'd never have so many haters. I've never seen. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's just like the state of the world right now or something. Everyone's still a little bit uncomfortable with after
Yeah.
whatever this decade's been like so far. I don't know, but like it's like just never like we would get random emails. Like by random, I mean like someone I've never talked to before, never
Mm.
I don't think I ever met. You know, at least they don't introduce themselves, and just like random person email. You know, like I just have to say like this is gonna destroy purity of. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not. Yeah, no one's made. I don't know. Yeah, it's. I
Don't
think
use, yeah, it's not
yeah,
going to
don't use
ruin
it. You know, like, or it's not. You know, and also like this is before it even came out. Like, so no one even has even touched it or seen it yet. So like, they're not even like, how do they? What are they even basing this on?
right.
Just like a rumor. So, but I think it kind of is because it's a bridge, you know, and like so I live in Portland, and you know they're always talking about making a bridge across or rebuilding the bridge across from Washington to Oregon, and you know it's a big deal, and like basically no one in Washington wants it to happen, or at least not enough people to vote it in.
Uh-huh.
So and it's sort of like, well, why would because people don't want bridges because it you know, I don't know, I'd say pollutes their like, you know, homogeny or whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There'll be
You
more.
know, it's
Yeah.
like, it kind of like blurs the identity. So, and I don't, you know, I can't really stand behind that. Like, it's like, come on, we're all musicians. Like, use the tools. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm only a hardware musician. But I use it. But he uses a meta module, so he's not really a hardware musician. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Well, I mean,
like
I
suddenly you or
think
like,
these people are the same people who are probably starting to get upset when
yeah,
more popular and more ubiquitous within the
yeah,
format.
like I
And
never touch MIDI, like or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Like,
or just multifunctional things. And it's like, I don't know,
yeah, I
because
mean,
there is the
yeah,
tactical side, and it is a super powerful tool and instrument. But I don't know, the purist in me is all but dead for
yeah,
any kind of musical technology, because it's just like it all takes time, and like anything to make it more fun, more enjoyable,
yeah,
and not that efficiency or expediency is the name of the game, but if you have an idea for a drum loop, you know, I can play it faster on my drum set than I can, so there's just, I feel
right.
like
And
with like,
programming it in, yeah,
yeah, and sure, I mean, yeah, sure, you could play an entire set with a meta module, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like most people will use it as a bridge, or just like how I was taught and you talked about it. Just have some key components that you. How many people out there, no matter what set they're playing, have like, even if it's just clock divider or utility type stuff. I find myself all the time repatching the same
yeah,
patch, and it's like, oh, well,
yeah.
if I can save that to a thing, I don't have to, I
Yeah,
don't
you don't
know.
have to repatch it. Yeah, yeah, and like also what you said, just like sit down on the couch and just make some jams. You just like
Yeah.
go dive into a world, and you're not, like on the system. You could do that on your rack system too, but and you should still do that too. There's no, this
Hmm.
doesn't stop you just because you have a meta module now. But it
Right.
is like it's small and contained and very powerful, and there's like more to explore. Because there's
Yeah.
like there's that module, there's that one reverb that I still haven't tried out that I want to try. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
when I get a chance, like I'm gonna just kind of see what it sounds like and just kind of run some stuff into it and see how it feels and just play. So
Hmm.
it's like this whole way to explore, and since it's like extendable, you can load more plugins. Like there's more modules coming out for it. Like it kind of you don't and you didn't spend so
Right.
like you get it evolving in the landscape as users in the community is like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to port this over to meta module? We can add that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
keep
Totally.
like so it's like a whole system that just keeps like porting, and it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's fun. It's like a
A
yeah
great education tool too. Like I use VCV Rack when I've taught a few like sessions here or there, just intro to Euro Rack type stuff. And VCV Rack is obviously like a really great tool for teaching multiple people. Everybody can just get the same setup, and I feel like this would be like a good like second course after that.
yeah
Okay, now we're going to integrate that with real hardware, so we'll get the meta module and then just a few simple things outside of that, and then it wouldn't be quite as overwhelming, because 99% of the people who tell me like, well, I've had so many people say like, I'd love to get into that, but like there's no way that I could ever figure it out. And it's like,
yeah
you definitely
because
could, but it's super intimidating when it's even a 7U case full with all, with everything patched. That looks to an outsider like madness, so
yeah yeah
yeah, I think I mean, it's meta, so it's going to have multiple different people are going to have
yeah
different uses for it. And I think that is the mark of a good tool for an artist. It's
yeah
just like, of course, we all like our outboard, super awesome compressors. They have their place and everything. But, what about the stuff that you don't need? Yeah, I don't
hmm
know. But let's get off of
hmm
the hater side. I just like, I had to ask because
It's funny
I,
though. Like I've
yeah.
never seen so much. I've never like like I get it. Like someone bought one of our things and there's like a clicking noise and they're really upset. Like I get that. Like, but like just like I hate because it's of its existence in the
Yeah.
world. Like
Right.
Like it's never. I was really surprised.
Well, and what a compliment to have people think that you could single-handedly like
Yeah,
ruin
right.
the
I know.
entire
Like,
format.
I'm gonna destroy music for everyone. What are you guys gonna do about it, huh?
So I imagine the general reception though has been
Oh
pretty
yeah,
great,
yeah,
like
yeah.
how
It's awesome.
like
Yeah.
yeah, how's that experience been? Because it's been
Oh,
out for
I
what, a
mean, we
couple weeks now?
sold out right away. Yeah, of course. It's like, it's been awesome. Like, and it has this community that like we've tapped into of like kind of computer music users. You know, and we're already obviously already tapped into like kind of Eurorack hardware users because we've just been in it for so long that like,
Right.
but it's sort of new to me, like people that are primarily making music on the computer, and just kind of be more, yeah. Some people I've just heard about or talked to, they're on our forum and talking all the time now, and so it's neat to see this like community kind of sprout up. People are sharing patches made just for the meta module, with other meta module users, and kind of there's like new ones coming out every day. People are posting, so it's a neat like.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that, making some just to like be like, hey, for everybody watching, if you have one, here you
Yeah,
go, like go download these or whatever.
share the file. Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
love
And
that
then
it comes with a bunch of pre-made patches too. So like if this is the bridge instrument for you and you're getting into it, like you can start there and start rerouting or deleting and that kind of thing. That's always, um, but like I said, I just like, I'm blown away with how user friendly it is. Like I was, because
thanks.
when you were showing me, you were still working out some bugs and trying to figure out. And when you
Yeah.
were telling me about it and showing it to me, I was just like, how is this gonna get to a point where it's going to be able to like stay running? And that's something I was kind of like, I was like skeptical about it, but I pushed that thing to its, I mean, you load up, I mean, it's got all the, all the mutable stuff. I've ran 2 clouds and marbles and, like,
Yeah.
you can build some really robust stuff on that. So, must be those new chips you were telling me about. That's
Yeah, it's fun. It's a cool chip. Yeah. I'm already looking
so,
at like the next generation, but yeah, that's a
yeah.
while off. Yeah.
So I also
Yeah.
wanted to ask about the 4MS modules on there. There's a lot of the classic 4MS modules, but some of them did you make some new modules that are just in there, or is everything that's a 4MS module has?
Yeah.
There's just a handful on there where I was like, I don't think I've ever seen them in the djembe and
Yeah. 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 They're kind of generic. None of those I feel like are like really things we like invented, like we just kind of put an existing thing like the drum it's pretty like it's cool, but it's like it's not an original idea. I don't even know. It's just a combination of different analog or drum synths, classic drum synths.
I mean that and the djembe have been
Cool,
my
though.
go-to. They're awesome.
The djembe is awesome. Yeah, and I didn't invent that algorithm. It's out there on Faust, and it's like I've seen it pop up in a few open source projects too, like playing around. We have like low pass gate and stuff. Just kind
Yeah,
of generic stuff.
the low pass gate. So I always put the low pass gate after those two,
Oh, okay.
to kind of cut down
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
decay more and give them a little bit more plinky and
Oh, that's
stuff.
cool. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Low pass gate after the drum would be cool. I don't know why I never thought of that. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. So there's a bunch, and so the story with those is originally since it was just going to be 4MS modules, and those were all like kind of fill in the gaps stuff,
Right.
because like because it was just going to be the 4MS modules, and then like Bafako was they jumped on, and we're like, we want to have our modules in there. I'm like, why? This is going to be a 4MS product. I'm going to sell this, like, what, and they're like, no, because it's cool, because like people will be able to like play our stuff on, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So,
And if you are into hardware, at least you can get an idea for what these things are. If you
Yeah.
are like, I want a Rampage, well, now I can try Rampage out to see if I need the physical.
see how cool it is. Yeah, and when you if you're like, I use Rampage in every single patch now, on every single meta module patch, like you maybe want to get a physical one so that you can actually move those sliders and actually like flip that switch and have it go dunk and stuff.
Yeah.
It's always better touching the real thing, but you can only.
But when you can have 2 of them.
Yeah,
You can just snap
Or
your
you can
finger.
snap back and forth. Yeah. Both. So yeah.
What other modules did you kind of like for the gap filler ones? Because there's quite a few on there. Like,
I mean, when we originally started, the other developer I was working with just kind of went to town on making just kind of just generic. We call them the generics. They're just like, basic stuff that you would want out of any multi-effect thing.
mhm.
And then,
Oh, the
and
reverb,
we,
right?
oh yeah, the free verb. Yeah. Yeah.
Freever, yeah,
Reverb.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's two. There's one where it's like the free verb algorithm and it sounds pretty good. It's pretty low. And there's another where it lets you just like break it. It lets you just break that algorithm and like change the coefficients to like nasty values and you can lock it up. I think that one's called verb
I think I
and it has
used
more
that.
knobs. And
Yeah,
like you can
I
make it
was
sound
like,
horrible and really crazy, like
yeah.
wrong, like it's like super noise instrument. But then it also like at some settings it sounds like a good reverb. So it does that weird.
Yeah, reverb's tough for modular too because it's like I just like an into chain usually like a sweetener and like that's rack
Yeah,
space for just something that I don't touch and
right,
doesn't, so that's I'm
right.
really
That's the
excited
effect thing.
about
Yeah,
that. Um,
yeah. I mean, and that another use of the meta module. I don't know if people do this a lot, but like you can just like if you want reverb, you can just run a reverb on the meta module in addition to whatever else you're doing on the meta module, and just use like stereo in, stereo out. So you like dedicate jacks like 1 and 2 in and 1 and 2 out to your reverb, and it's on every patch. And then the rest of it's doing your like drum sequencer thing or whatever else you're doing, but
right.
you can have separate things running.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, and there's different reverbs on there, and being able to swap them out and just change which one you're
Yeah,
using is
totally.
kind of cool.
Yeah, and then just the integration of my existing hardware has been super fun as well. The Catalyst sequencer, I've been using
Yeah.
that a lot with Meta Module. Something I was also curious about, and you don't have to talk about this, but it's like the decision to make like, especially some of the newer one, like the shape dual envelope VCA and like the STS and the ensemble oscillator. Like some of you are like DLD, your kind of trademark. Like I imagine these are some of your biggest sellers, and now they're like, yeah, you sell this, but
Yeah.
now they're on this. Like, were you a little nervous about like, am I undercutting myself
I
here?
know,
Or
right? I know. It's like, but then you're like, but if I'm undercutting myself, then I'm winning, right? Because I undercut
well, yeah,
myself.
I mean,
I
I
don't
know
know. Yeah.
you, so
Like,
I kind of
but
figured
we're selling meta modules.
what
Yeah.
I want it to be, then try to make an extra buck here.
I mean, the idea is that, yeah, I know it's not, it is just like, it's kind of like we're doing what we're passionate about and like we're led by like, this has to exist. It's so cool. This idea is
Mhm.
like really cool. And then, so we're making it and then like we kind of have to figure out how to like retroactively justify it, you know? And then, yeah, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, the thing is like, it's such the way, I don't know, the market or something. It's just like new stuff sells really well. And then like old stuff is just kind of like old news.
Yeah.
So as of now, everything's old that we make except for the meta module and the catalyst maybe, but like the catalyst will never be on the meta module because that's so heavy. The crossfader and the buttons, there's no way it just will never be a meta module.
Well, yeah, and the fact that like
So,
it's either your sequencer or this like super cool controller,
yeah.
yeah, that wouldn't be super. Yeah, that makes
Yeah, it
sense.
won't. It's not a virtual thing at all. So it's a controller for virtual things. It's really good for that. So,
Yeah.
but like
And no Swan, but I imagine that would just be such a like sag on the CPU or the processor.
yeah, it'll fit on the CPU, but it's more the like it's everything's button, they're all rotaries with like
Yeah.
push and turn or like hold a button and push and turn. It just does, and the lights are so important on that. You'd have to have it like full screen the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. That one kind of is like, is it worth it? Like trying to figure out another
Just put like
way to.
four ensemble oscillators and you can
Yeah,
start getting
yeah,
kind of close, right?
yeah. You can do that. Yeah, the ensemble translates really well because
Yeah.
it's knobs, and the SMR also doesn't translate so well, but there is a port of that for VCB rec already, which I'm going to eventually help them
Oh,
port over
cool.
to.
Nice. Okay,
So
cool.
Prism.
Yeah, are there any other manufacturers that you can give an exclusive pod mod, like this is coming, or is this all still kind of playing it
Oh,
under?
nothing's secret. Yeah, there's no. I know everybody was talking about what they've heard on the forum, and I think there's a lot that are other brands that are kind of like, yeah, we want to, but everybody's busy, and I'm
Mhm.
not. I mentioned this earlier. Like I'm really focusing on like getting that plugin API SDK a little bit more feature rich so that we can port more things and there's less speed bumps in the porting process. So
Mhm.
just trying to there's some things like right click menus on plugins. Like on the computer, if you need a feature, you just put it in a right click menu and users can just
Mhm.
select it, But it acts, it's like a weird thing on a virtual on the meta module. It's like, so you need like a special menu so figuring that out, having that be more of an automatic thing.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I think that's cool
so
too, is
yeah,
focusing on the plugin side because, you know, putting a lot of stuff, having a lot of stuff available in there that isn't available in the hardware market, and
yeah,
especially when it comes to things like compression, like just, your VSTs that are for just enhancing and shaping your audio for not so much as on the creative side, but just, on making everything sound nice and tight. I think that's
yeah,
a good way for people to learn about signal chain and all of that. So I think that's pretty sweet.
yeah,
Now, for say that you are somebody out there who can build VCV rack modules, and you want to build your own for meta module, can you do
yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And there's an SDK and there have been some that have done that.
Look,
And
my phone's ringing and it's my camera. I gotta hit.
oh, okay.
Hopefully that didn't kill my camera. Okay, cool. Sorry about that.
Bro. Um, yeah. So there's some right now, like I'm available. If someone is interested, they can just email me and I can help them. Or if they want to just follow the instructions, there's a free, it's linked to from our page and stuff. You can, our GitHub, there's a free SDK and some example projects. All the plugins that exist right now, except for one, which is closed source, but all the open source ones are on this project called MetaModule Plugin Examples on our GitHub. And
Oh, okay.
because they actually just started making them just to like kind of show examples for other, like here's how you would port a plugin. Um, and ideally, I would like it just to be like one command, like you just build it and it just runs on the meta module. Like, so real easy for developers, but of course, like, things are complicated. So, and
Yeah.
as we go along, I'm porting more brands that, things pop up like the right click menu thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, how do you handle like mouse clicks, because that's just not a thing you have. So there's some
Right.
like, so kind of figuring out, trying to make more of that automatic. So that, I think, if you're a plugin developer and your module behaves like a hardware module, like it doesn't do any magical stuff, like it doesn't need any mouse interaction besides just turning knobs and stuff. It's like hardware. It doesn't do any magic. Then it'll be easy. It'll probably just following the example scripts. And if it doesn't, yeah, I'm here to help people do that too. If
That's
they want to. So I mean, it's a cool
yeah.
someone can.
People can learn how to make these things
Yeah,
through
you can
the.
make you can take your idea that if you know a little something about audio DSP or whatever, a little bit of coding, but you want to make a thing that runs on actual hardware and like interface it with real MIDI instruments and like real CV jacks and knobs, like you can do that fairly easily.
Yeah, I imagine this would be a good way for like other developers out there to mess with ideas,
Yeah,
like when they're
yeah, it's an
prototyping.
educational.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like another form of educational platform, is that not just like learning how to patch and learning about modular, which I think it's great for too, because you don't have to spend all this money on like all these modules, but also like if you're into programming or or a little bit, how to do a little bit of that, like you could just have a real thing it's not just running in your terminal window. It's like actually running on a hardware thing that you can show
Right.
your friends or whatever, like
Yeah,
playing a
exactly.
jam and take it, without
Yeah.
your computer attached.
Now, because it's not VCV rack. Now, I am totally out of my depth. I know nothing about coding or any of that stuff. But like, is there thoughts or possibility of being able to? Well, maybe pure data. Can you use pure data stuff on VCV rack, or like? I mean, Scott, like shooting for the stars. Is there like going to be like an at max MSP kind of almost type like integration,
Right.
something
It's
like that?
so yeah, I know. I mean, when we made the VCV rack like adapter layer that let that happen, that
Mm-hmm.
like I left it open so there can be more adapters too.
Okay.
The one that I've kind of been thinking about is the Faust. I don't know. It's not like super well known outside of like very academic, which is
Okay.
not me. I just don't know how I even found out about it. But it's like Faust is a functional audio syntax language, and it's pretty cool. Really short, a lot of language you can just like type like VCO in like into an LFO or whatever. Like you can just type it out, and they have an
Cool.
online graphical way of doing it, and you make like buttons and knobs and stuff. It's pretty cool. And there's tons of examples by like a lot of like DSP gurus, like people who like teach DSP theory at colleges and things like this. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of really, really cool sounding things that aren't really promoted on a commercial level a lot. They're
Uh-huh.
just like basically research projects, like
Uh-huh.
researching like different ways to model bells and drums and cool,
Well,
crazy things, and you can connect them all together. So yeah, an adapter
yeah.
layer for that I think would be awesome, really awesome.
Well,
PD also, yeah,
yeah.
PD would be
Yeah,
a
because
great one too.
you could go between your critter and Guitari stuff or whatever, like
Yeah,
I was also thinking I mean, I can't speak for Randy at Madrona Labs and I don't even know if it would be possible, but like if you could somehow get like Kaivo in there, like I really like want a Kaivo hardware, but it's a soft synth, and are you familiar
yeah.
with Madrona stuff like Alto and
I know the company. I don't know
KEANU?
the Kaibo though. Should I look it up right now?
Kaivo's
Yeah.
like it's their resonator, and it's basically like it's a granulator resonator, and it's got resonator body and like a granulator, and it's got these
Oh,
sequences
cool.
built in. I actually did the entire thing as a video series for Madrona on YouTube. Like walk through
Okay.
a module but it's like a contained, like you draw patch cables and stuff. It's a contained like synth, but yeah, I don't know, like if you could just break the parts out and have that be in there, I just think that would be
Run it
so
on.
cool.
Sure. I mean, I'll look. Yeah. Sure. I
But yeah,
mean,
I should
it sounds awesome.
connect you with
So
Randy. He's a
yeah.
fucking awesome guy, and his stuff is so like, in fact, I haven't really been much of a soft synth user, but getting into his stuff has changed that a lot. I use it quite a bit. It's just, yeah, that's so cool. Well, that's cool. I figured that, like, I figured the case would be something along the lines of your answer. Like, it's not closed off, and there's
Yeah.
room for growth.
Yeah. It's a platform.
So it's like you've got this really nice platform that you can build more stories on.
Yeah.
Well, we're rounding down. We got 12 minutes left. I want to make sure that you get all of your meta module musings out before our hour ends. Is there anything that we haven't covered yet?
Oh gosh. I was surprised you didn't ask about the expanders because that's like
Oh yeah, no, thank you
always
for
is like a
reminding
thing
me.
that
Let's talk about
people
this.
are like always like, but what about the expanders? Yeah, so I mean that is coming, and it can be the Podular Modcast exclusive, sneak exclusive, whatever. But then I have off camera here. I have a button, an audio, 8 buttons, and then 2 knob expanders, so 16 knobs, and then the Wi-Fi expander, all hooked up at the same time and all
Okay.
running. So that extends, and they can do more. That's just like how many we have
Can you run me through each one of those?
Yeah, so we have like there's audio expanders, audio/CV. It just like gives you the jacks that are on the meta module, just gives you that again, except for the two
Okay.
gates.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
so you get another, and then you just route them, and that module is on VCV rack, or it's on my VCV rack. It'll be on
Right.
yours when you get it, and then and you just drag, just like you make patches, or it detects when it's plugged in. And then when you're like routing cables, you say new panel cable, and then it just shows up. It's like
It shows up.
outputs
Okay.
9 through 16. So you have 1 through 8 on board, and 9 through 16 are on the expander.
Now, did you just put those all vertical? Is it like a 4 HP thing?
Yeah,
Or?
yeah. It's all this is the one that's not. Yeah, it's just all vertical.
Okay, nice, very nice.
No, it's 6 HP. That fits.
Okay.
That gives you a little room for the jacks. Yeah, and then 14 jacks. So, and then and it doesn't add it's like a 1 or 2%, processing.
Really? Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's just, of course, like if you make your patch twice as big, then but the modules take what they take. But
right, yeah,
it itself, just having it doesn't add. And then there's a button expander. It's one's plugged in. I'm not gonna, but it's just same size, but it's 8 buttons, like LED buttons. So just white light.
Okay, so like if there's a tap tempo on something, you can assign that button. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, I guess that. And then what I'm working on now is a general way to like assign the lights too, because there's kind of it's
the light. What do you mean the light?
Well, the buttons have lights.
Oh, I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And some buttons on modules have lights, and so that's easy. Like you want the button to be the light, right? So that's easy. But then there's kind of like, what about that module where it's like it's an RGB light, and there's like a red, green, and blue, and there's a difference between red and green light, but this is a white light here. So like, I'm just kind of figuring out like what should the default be, and like of course you can go in and change it, but like how should it handle that?
Right.
And then also like it doesn't like what if it's just a button with no lights? Okay, that's fine. But then like someone's gonna ask, can I assign the clock light? And like I want to, can I assign this like other random light that's just on a module to that unused light on my button? So, and I want to be able to say yes. So, and you can right now.
I know like the Schlappy stuff, like he uses the red and blue, but when you start getting to a certain rate, it's changing so fast it becomes purple.
Yeah.
So you can kind of do some stuff like that, right? Is that how you kind of generally get into different colors for different like the white button knobs?
Yeah, I think for this, like since the refresh rate's really slow compared to that, it's not audio refresh rate, because I didn't design it to like have that kind of
right.
For the light, the buttons are really low latency, but like the lights them don't like.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
They're not for like flashing audio rate kind of stuff. So, but they'll flash to a tempo or whatever, but not like audio speed. But yeah, I think I have it where like you can assign it to any light, but just kind of coming up for an interface for that, like because it's like lights don't even have names a lot of times on these modules, so it's figuring that kind of thing, like how deep do people really want to go with this, and like so that there's that,
as
and
deep
then
as you can possibly imagine,
I know,
and then deeper after you think you did it and release it.
I know, and then they're like, can I change the color of the light? No. So yeah, we have that. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a light module. Oh, then knobs. Yeah. There's a knob modules too. So there's just 8 knobs. That one is 8 HP. It's just 8. The big knobs with the nuts and not the little trim pots. The big ones.
Okay.
And we may do a slider expander. It's the same thing, but sliders. But I don't know. I'm gonna see how the knob one goes, and like maybe you don't really need 2 sliders and knobs. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's the same thing, but it's just like different form. I'm like, do we really need to make 2 things? So
yeah. What about the Wi-Fi? Is that just for transferring back and forth without needing to plug it in?
Yeah. So the Wi-Fi, they're shipping to us right now. So we should have them next week, and they are. It just connects to your browser. So you just have it's for people who want to be going back and forth from the computer. More than just like patching on the meta module. So it's like you make your patch on VCD Rec, or and then you have the browser window, and you just like load it. That's onto the meta module from that. So you just like drag it onto the file box, and it just transfers over. And you can see all the files that you have, all the patches you have on your Meta module too, like on the USB drive and the internal and the SD card if you have those plugged in.
Yeah, that's
so you can copy it.
Like that. I like that feature too, because then like I can keep certain, like if I was going to play a show, I would have them all on my SD card, so I could just like know exactly where they were. One idea for an expander, take it or leave it, just like a little 2 HP headphone output. Because I'm thinking when I'm on like the couch or something,
Yeah. I see what you mean. Actually, it's like an audio output.
Where you could run your two, whatever you dedicate as your 2 outs or whatever outs, you can just run this overall stereo mix of the entire thing to this, headphone out.
Oh yeah, that's a nice idea. I mean, because I was thinking you would do it like you would just patch from like outs 1 and 2 to a headphone module and then patch. But like
that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, but an expander could be just just be like outputs 9 and 10 would be your headphones.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you could just have it be more than that, but just have that as a feature. Like, oh yeah, here's a couple more outputs, but also
but they're headphone level.
Yeah.
Sure. Have 2. That's not a bad idea. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you an invoice.
Yeah. Okay, that right.
Well, I'm so excited it's out. I can't wait to like make some content with it. I hate that word, but yeah, I started tracking some stuff with it yesterday on this actually a song that it was one of the first things I did with a Catalyst, and throwing some drums behind it. I was like, oh, this is kind of a rockin' tune. So yeah, got it all communicating across the studio, and yeah, I'm super excited. I think it's going to be a super powerful tool for me, and just a way for me to cut down on the overall size and actual physical cables. Because before this, going down to the garage or going down to the couch to mess around with it, I came down with a bunch of patch cables. So every time, my wife's digging through the couch, vacuuming or looking for glass or anything, there's always a couple patch cables.
Sucker, yeah.
Well, I'm just I'm really stoked for y'all, and I can't wait to just kind of see where this goes, because just like you're talking about, this whole new community of people that you've become aware of and interacting with, and just seeing kind of what that community can bring to the Eurorack ecosystem. And it seems like it's gonna be a cool thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, we're about that time where I always like to ask, is there anything you'd like to scream from the modular mountaintops down?
Oh yeah, I forgot that question. I just to all the haters out there, to all the bridge haters, just have fun. Have fun.
Yeah, simmer down. Just don't use it. Don't tell people about it if that makes you feel better. I don't know.
If you're not having fun making the music you're making, then try something else.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dan. It's always a pleasure to get to hang and chat.
Thanks. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Okay, that's our show. Thank you to Dan for once again gracing us with his wonderful presence. For more information on the Meta module, please see the links in the show description. Also, don't forget that Tim's new module, KEANU, in collaboration with After Later Audio, has been released. If you get one, be sure to send Tim some sounds or video so he can see it ripping in the wild. Big thanks to this week's illustrious sponsors, Expert Sleepers, Novation, and Signal Sounds. And finally, thank you for listening. If you would like to support the show, then please consider signing up for the Patreon, or if a one-time donation is more appealing, then links to Venmo and PayPal can be found in the show notes, along with links to our guests and sponsor sites. This week's secret word is haters gonna hate. Until next week.